Attack on Titan released its final volume a while ago, and one of the biggest mysteries that it covered was the headache that the heroine Mikasa often suffered from. Mikasa suffered from a throbbing headache after Eren's mother, Carla, was eaten by titans in the second chapter of the first volume, and she continued to suffer from mysterious headaches throughout the story. In the past, we've made videos explaining the mystery of Mikasa's headaches in more detail, where we shared the theory that the founding titan, Ymir Fritz, was interfering with Mikasa's mind, and this was what was causing her headaches, as well as the theory that the headaches were caused by migraines from excessive stress. These are just interesting things I found out, combined with some of my own interpretations. But I think you'll find it interesting because it dives a little deeper, so I hope you'll find this theory useful. Please be aware, this video contains spoilers up to the final chapter of the manga. The reason for headaches in Attack on Titan. First, let's take a look at the reason why Mikasa had such severe headaches. In Chapter 112, Eren explains the reason for Mikasa's headaches. According to him, Mikasa's headaches are caused by her resistance to the Ackerman family's instinct of protecting their hosts. This was later debunked in Chapter 130, and it's widely believed that it was a lie he told her to make her hate him. The real reason why Mikasa was having headaches is because she was trying to remember something. I say this because not only Mikasa, but Eren also suffered from headaches when recalling memories that had been sealed away or the memories of his father. This is easier to understand because scenes from the past were usually shown when Mikasa was suffering from headaches. Seeing how not only Mikasa, but also Eren, who's not part of the Ackermans, suffered from these headaches, we can assume that in the world of Attack on Titan, headaches occur when people are trying to recall memories that were locked away. Meaningful moments in chapters 1 and 138. It's no exaggeration to say that the biggest foreshadowing in Attack on Titan is the scene in the beginning of the first chapter, where an adult woman appears and says, "See you later, Eren." And right after that, Eren wakes up as a boy. We know for sure now, after chapter 138, that this woman was Mikasa from the future. In chapter 138, there's a scene that's very strange because it happens before Mikasa kills Eren. During the battle, Mikasa was fighting against Eren when she suffered a severe headache. And immediately after that, Eren and Mikasa spent time together in a scene that seems to take place in another world. After that, the events in the world where she's fighting Eren and the ones in the world where she's spending time with him are shown side by side. Finally, in the world where she's fighting with Eren, Mikasa cuts his head off. And at the same time, in the world where she's living with him, Mikasa says, "See you later, Eren." At first glance, it seems as if we were looking at a separate timeline or a parallel world. But it's hard to believe that these two worlds are completely unconnected. So, what exactly is the world where Mikasa and Eren spend the rest of Eren's life together? It turns out that the time Eren and Mikasa spent together didn't happen in another world or another timeline. It all happened inside the coordinate. The coordinate is a type of spiritual world where time doesn't truly exist. And this is why Chapter 1 is connected to when Eren dies and returns to the real world from the coordinate. Let's try to reorder events in the story in a way that makes them easier to understand. Eren's actions in the last chapter. The last chapter begins with Eren and Armin talking in the coordinate. The coordinate is a world where all Eldians are connected, and even death isn't necessarily permanent, because in chapter 137, dead characters like Eren's father, Grisha, appear. In a sense, it's an imaginary world where anything is possible. But the scene in the last chapter is where Eren uses the power of the founding titan to invite Armin to the coordinate and have a conversation with him. An interesting note is that Eren and Armin were initially children in the coordinate, but as the conversation progressed, they transformed into adults. It's possible that this change was instantaneous in the coordinate, depending on their current mental state. But it's also possible that Eren and Armin spent so much time talking in the coordinate that they aged, because no matter how much time they spend in the coordinate, time in the real world wouldn't change. Since Eren says that the Founding Titan's influence can affect both the past and future, it's safe to assume that time in the coordinate and in the real world are completely different. After Armin's memory ends, we see that Eren also came to see the other members in his class and expressed his true feelings to them in the coordinate. The Founding Titan had just erased the memories of the time he had spent with each of them, so it was only after Eren was gone that the other members of his class could remember what had happened. We know that Armin spent time with Eren in the coordinate before the final battle in chapter 131. The reason why Armin is spacing out before Annie calls him is because Eren had just erased his memories of his time in the coordinate. So, what was the time Eren spent with Mikasa like, and when did she remember it? The answer to that question is in Mikasa's words in chapters 1 and 138. Eren and Mikasa's conversation in the coordinate. So, the world shown in chapter 138, where Eren and Mikasa are living together, were all things that happen inside of the coordinate, even though they were both adults from the beginning, which is different from how it was for Armin. It's possible that Eren and Mikasa also spent an enormous amount of time inside the coordinate, living a second life. That second life was basically what would have happened if Mikasa would have confessed to Eren when he asked her about her feelings for him back in Marley. So, inside the coordinate, which isn't affected by real-world time, they were able to experience life as they would have been if Mikasa had made a different choice. The time that they spend in the coordinate comes to an end when Eren would have died. 4 years later, Eren was 19 and inherited the Founding Titan and Attack Titan when he was 10 years old. So he had lived for 9 years already, and heirs to the 9 Titans can only live for 13 years after they inherit them. So no matter what options would have been chosen, Eren would have died in 4 years anyway. After 4 years had passed in the world of the coordinate, Mikasa says to Eren right before he dies, "See you later, Eren." And then they both forgot everything that happened inside the coordinate. The time they spent together in the coordinate was actually something that happened a long time ago. They had just forgot, similar to how Armin had in chapter 131. We know Eren could go back in time and influence Titans to change events that happened even before he inherited the Founding Titan. But the Founding Titan doesn't just have control over all other Titans, it has control over all subjects of Ymir. So, the scene in chapter 1 where Eren as a boy wakes up from his dream is when his memories of spending his life inside the coordinate were erased. This creates a sort of time loop between the beginning and the end of the story. But the "see you later, Eren" in the first chapter was not a memory of the future. It was the last thing he had seen in the coordinate before his memories were erased. The truth about Mikasa's headache. So, when did Mikasa get back her memories of spending time with Eren in the coordinate? It was right before she killed Eren. But everyone else only got their memories back after Eren was gone. Maybe she was able to remember while Eren was still alive because she was an Ackerman. But I've also heard people say, if Mikasa's an Ackerman, then why was her memory able to get erased in the first place? This might be because she was part of the branch family of the Ackermans, not the main family like Levi. Maybe if something similar happened to Levi, there would be no way to make him forget it. But since Mikasa isn't part of the main family, her memories can be altered, but not permanently. So that's why her memories could be altered, but she was also able to remember everything before Eren died. After getting her memories back, she knew exactly where Eren was. So maybe Eren told her himself inside the coordinate. Mikasa essentially experienced 2 different lives, where she got to see the outcome of her choice if she would have confessed to Eren. Other elements of the loop. One of the most popular theories about the story of Attack on Titan is that the last chapter of the story loops back to the first chapter of the story. However, most of you probably didn't think that the last chapter was part of a loop at all. If we're talking about the loop theory, then it's not the last chapter, but chapter 138, the second to last chapter, that creates a loop with chapter 1. So the loop theory is a little more complicated than most people think. In the last chapter, there's also something else that could be considered part of the loop, and that was the narration done by Armin. In the last chapter, Armin ended by saying he would tell everyone the stories that they had seen. Is it possible that this story Armin would tell is connected to Armin's words in the first episode of the anime about remembering the humiliation of being trapped in a birdcage? When Armin narrated this sentence in the anime, some people think that the reason why Armin's voice was lower when he was reading this sentence compared to his voice acting during the episode was because it was the first part of the story that the adult Armin was telling to the world. If you think about it this way, then the last chapter does connect to the first chapter. So you could say this is a type of a loop. This is just one theory, but if it's true, then it makes the story of Attack on Titan seem even more well thought out. That's all we have for this video. Please feel free to comment with your opinions about anything I said. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again in the next video.